Judge Patricia Wells struck her gavel. "Thomas Morrison, you are hereby sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for drug trafficking." Silence filled the courtroom. Then, from the back rows, an elderly man stood up. Gray hair, straight posture, eyes filled with tears. "Your Honor," he said, his voice trembling, "I am this boy's father. I served 30 years as a Navy SEAL for this country, and I have something very important to tell you." In that moment, everyone in the courtroom who had been speaking fell silent. All eyes turned to this father. Welcome to the Human Stories. Today I'm going to tell you the story of a father, the story of a war hero fighting his greatest battle. This battle wasn't fought in Afghanistan, not in Iraq, but in a San Diego courtroom, and his enemy was the failure in raising his son. Don't forget to mention what city you're watching from in the comments, and if you believe stories like this need to be told, subscribe. Commander James Morrison, 55 years old, a soldier who served 30 years as a Navy SEAL, 4 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq, holder of the Navy Cross, Silver Star, and 3 Bronze Stars, one of the most respected names in American military history. But today, he was facing the hardest test of his life. He had lost his wife to cancer 2 years ago. Linda Morrison had supported her husband through all the hardships of being a military wife for 25 years. While James was on duty, she had raised Tommy alone, and now both were gone. Linda in the ground, Tommy shackled in a courtroom. That morning, James had come to court for Tommy's hearing. His son had been in custody for 6 months, caught selling drugs, federal crime, facing a mandatory minimum 5-year prison sentence. James had served his country for 30 years, but he couldn't save his son. The courtroom was packed. Media, onlookers, families of other defendants. James sat quietly in the back row. Nobody knew who he was, just an old man watching his son's hearing. Judge Patricia Wells, 50 years old, an experienced judge who had served in federal court for 15 years. She was merciless with drug crimes. No tolerance shown, punishment given philosophy. The Tommy Morrison file was routine for her. Another drug dealer. When the hearing began, Tommy was seated in the defendant's chair, hands shackled. 23 years old, thin, pale, his once athletic body now collapsed. His eyes searched for his father in the courtroom. When he found him, he lowered his head in shame. The prosecutor read the charges. The defendant, Thomas Morrison, is accused of possession with intent to distribute 2 kilograms of cocaine, participation in a federal drug distribution network. James's heart ached with every word. This was his son. The child who once played Little League baseball, who was captain of the high school football team, now a federal criminal. Tommy's lawyer made his defense. "Your Honor, my client is a young man who has lost his mother. He fell into depression, got involved with the wrong crowd. This is his first offense." Judge Wells listened coldly. "Mr. Morrison, please stand." Tommy stood up, trembling. "The minimum sentence for federal drug crimes is 5 years. I see no mitigating circumstances. I sentence you to 5 years in federal prison." As she struck her gavel, a voice rose from the courtroom. "Your Honor!" Everyone turned. James Morrison was standing, his voice firm but trembling. "Sir, please sit down," said the judge. "Your Honor, I request the right to speak." "The hearing is over. Please sit down." "I'm this boy's father." The courtroom fell silent. James's voice grew stronger. "I served my country for 30 years as a Navy SEAL, and I have very important things to tell you." Judge Wells stopped. She lowered her gavel. She studied James Morrison, his military bearing, determined gaze, authority. This was not an ordinary father. "Commander Morrison," the judge said, her voice softening, "please speak." James stepped forward. Every step echoed in the courtroom. He reached Tommy's side but didn't touch him. He turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I served 30 years in the military, Navy SEAL teams. I served in the most dangerous places in the world. I faced death 1,000 times. I lost friends, but none of it was as difficult as what I'm experiencing here today." His voice trembled. He continued, "This boy is my son. When I held him in my arms 23 years ago, I promised I would give him the best. Honor, courage, commitment. SEAL values, but I failed." Tommy raised his head, his eyes filled with tears. "We lost my wife Linda 2 years ago, cancer. She was the woman who raised Tommy while I was on duty. While I was absent at wars, she held the family together, and I couldn't protect her either. James's eyes filled with tears, but he continued. Tommy sold drugs. True. He committed a crime. True. But this boy isn't bad. He's lost. When his mother died, his father lost him too, because I was dealing with PTSD, with depression, and Tommy was left alone. The judge listened carefully. Your Honor, I rescued over 200 people in wars, my comrades, allies, civilians, but I couldn't save my own son. This is my fault. Tommy started crying. Dad, no. James turned to him. Tommy, be quiet. This is my time. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, I have a proposal for you. Give me this boy. Let me put him in a military discipline program. 6 months of strict discipline. Training every day. Teaching responsibility every day. Character building every day. If I fail, give him 10 years, not 5. The courtroom was silent. The judge was surprised. Commander Morrison, this is an unusual request. Your Honor, I'm a man who deals with unusual situations. For 30 years as a SEAL, I accomplished impossible missions. This time, I'll succeed too. At that moment, someone from the back of the courtroom stood up. An elderly man, looking like a Vietnam veteran. Your Honor, he said, I stand with Commander Morrison. Then another stood up. Then another. Within 5 minutes, half the courtroom was standing. All veterans, all supporting James. Judge Wells looked in amazement. She had never seen such a scene. Commander Morrison, she said, do you really think you can do this? Your Honor, I'm someone who makes the impossible possible. But this time I'm doing it for my own son, my most important mission. Tommy stood up, wiping his face with shackled hands. Your Honor, I dishonored my father. I violated the values of honor, courage, commitment. But if you give me a chance, I want to learn these values again, the judge thought. There was a long silence. This is a very unusual situation, she said finally. But considering Commander Morrison's service record and the community support here, I'm giving an alternative sentence. She took her gavel. Thomas Morrison, 2 years probation, 6 months military-style rehabilitation program under your father's responsibility. If the program fails, automatic 5 years in prison. James breathed a sigh of relief. Tommy collapsed into his chair, crying. Thank you, Your Honor, James said. I promise you I will save this boy. When the hearing ended, the veterans surrounded James. Everyone congratulated him, offered their support. Commander, said the elderly Vietnam veteran. What can we do for you? Just pray, James said. This is my hardest mission. That night, James took Tommy home. They would live together for 6 months. Strict discipline, training, character education. Tommy, he said during the car ride, this is your last chance. I know, Dad. I won't disappoint you this time. Don't disappoint yourself, not me. The 6 months were hard. Wake up at 5:30 every morning, 10-kilometer run, physical training, then community service, job training in the afternoon, family time in the evening, values education. Tommy resisted. This is too hard, Dad. SEAL training was harder. You can do it too. Gradually, Tommy began to change. He built his body, learned discipline, took responsibility. Most importantly, he started talking to his father. Dad, I was so lost after Mom died. So was I, son. We were both lost. But now we'll get through this together. After 6 months, they returned to court. Tommy was a completely different person. Healthy, disciplined, determined. Your Honor, Tommy said, my father didn't just teach me discipline again. He taught me life. I'm ready now. Judge Wells smiled. Commander Morrison, congratulations. You've created a miracle. No, Your Honor. My son created his own miracle. I just showed the way. Tommy successfully completed his probation. He started community college, studying to become a paralegal. Following his father's path, he wanted to serve justice. 2 years later, Tommy was standing on his own feet. He had a good job, a clean record, a bright future. Dad, he said one evening, I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just live by these values. Honor, courage, commitment. Forever, Dad. That day, James Morrison realized that his greatest victory wasn't won on the battlefield, but at home. He had saved his son. But more importantly, he had saved himself. This story shows us that sometimes the greatest courage is shown in courtrooms. Sometimes the hardest battles are fought at home. James Morrison defended his country for 30 years, but he won his greatest victory while defending his family. Have there been such moments in your life? Moments when you risked everything for a loved one? Share in the comments, and if this story touched you, subscribe. Because the most powerful stories are born from family love. Fathers like James Morrison, children like Tommy Morrison live among us. Let's remember their stories, support them. See you in the next story.